Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to the call and the YouTube live. So we're going to read from Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, and I think we did until text 24. So we are going to do further reading. I'm just trying to figure out a way to scroll this thing. Yeah. So we're going to do a little bit of a summarization of what we have done so far. So in the 13th chapter, basically discusses about the Prakriti, then who's the Purusha, and the consciousness, the soul. So here Arjuna has asked a few questions about Kshetra, Kshetragna, and he's asked about what is Prakriti, and then he's again just going back to the he's asking question. He needs to know about Prakriti, Purusha, the field, and the knower of the field and of knowledge and the object of knowledge. So we discussed in great detail about Kshetra and Kshetragna. Kshetra is the field of activity, and Kshetragna is so we are gonna do Kshetragna is the knower of the field, and then there are two knowers of the field. That is just 1 minute. This is giving me some trouble. The scroll. Yeah. So Kshetragna is the knower of the field, and there are two knowers of the field. One is the soul, and the other is the super soul themselves. Just give me 1 minute. There are some issues in my computer, and it's saying high CPU usage detected. And it's giving me trouble. Okay. I'm just trying to close some windows so it makes life a little easy. Okay. Yes, Hare Krishna. Give me a few minutes. Okay. This is not scrolling properly. Yes, Hare Krishna. Yeah, we're just beginning, giving us a few minutes. There's some issues here. Okay, is it okay if we don't see stuff on YouTube? Like, I'm not able to scroll the screen. And okay, maybe a little bit. Alright, so in the 13th chapter, basically in the first section we discussed about Kshetra, Kshetragna, and the activities by which the soul engages within his allotted sphere of activities, which is the Kshetra. So related to the body, there are things that are connected to the body, that is the Kshetragna. That's called as the Kshetra, and that is the field. And there are two knowers of the field. And then what is knowledge? Krishna explains from 13.8 to 13.12. First he explains in 7 is that what is knowledge? Knowledge basically means to know who is the field, what is the field, and who is the knower of the field. Who are the knowers? Anything apart from that is ignorance. So whatever we have learned so far is basically ignorance, because nothing taught us about the field of activity and the knower of the field. We were only taught how to manipulate the field, right? How to do certain things with the field of activity. Nobody taught us that, okay, we are different from this field of activity itself, and we are different from this. So 13.8 to 13.12 was the process of knowledge. We discussed that in great detail, and it begins with humility, and humility is the first step. And then there are so many other things that are mentioned, and then again Krishna says over there that whatever is there beyond that is ignorance. So then in 13.13 to 13.19, Krishna explains who is the object of knowledge. And basically here in those particular series of verses, Krishna gives the understanding that how the soul is subordinate and it's inferior to the super soul, and they are not the same. And the soul, through the process of knowledge, can know the super soul, that is, can know Krishna, who is the ultimate object of knowledge. And he explains the different aspects, the different features of the super soul. And then he says only devotees can understand the body. So only when you're Krishna conscious, only when you're practicing Krishna consciousness, you know that you are different from the body. So then only you can understand that this body is a field of activities and there is a process of knowledge that I need to follow so that I can know the super soul. Like that. And then text 20 to 26, I think we did till text 24 last time. And so in text 20 to 24, what we discussed is basically we'll just go through those verses again because it's nice to read those things again. So he is explaining how the material nature and the living entities are eternal, and basically we are Prakriti. Okay, we are not Purusha. Purusha is Lord Shri Krishna himself. So Prakriti has two features. Basically the higher and the, so we are like that. The Prakriti is like one is the spiritual world is also there, but we are like the marginal energy, and then there is this inferior energy which is a material nature, right? But all of these are beginningless, they are eternal. Why? Because it's like we may say, oh, now all these houses and these universes and all of these things are there, and then you only told us that they everything gets destroyed, and the bubbles of the universe they get destroyed just like with the breathing of the Maha Vishnu. Yes, that is correct, but all the sum total material nature, the mass, gets collected as Mahat Tattva, like a dark cloudy black mass, right? Remember we talked about it. And then only again when the Mahavishnu glances at it, then all these different manifestations happen. So the Prakriti, the material nature is also eternal, but it is manifest sometimes and it is unmanifest sometimes. And then Krishna is telling in text 20 how the transformations and the modes of matter are products of nature. So what we have, there are so many changes, so many manifestations happen and so many things happen, right? And what happens is we get so lost in those manifestations and all the products of material nature that we think that this is life, but actually that is not life. All right. And then 21 to 24, Krishna is expressing who is the actual doer, right? So in one sense we are the one who is the nature, material nature is being created as a design by Krishna. It's like a system. Whatever input you give, you will get the output. So sometimes we blame, oh, this because of these situations something happened. No, you were in those situations because of your past activities and your past karma. So we are responsible for our activities. That is what Krishna is trying to establish, and Krishna is establishing. And whatever we do, the material nature's job is to give us the result of it based on what we deserve, etc. And that is a system created by Krishna. So who is the doer, right? And in another sense, when you do something good also, your thing was only to desire, but there was always so many people who worked together, and material nature came, modes of material nature, time, and everything aligned together for you to be able to get the result, like that. So in the sense that you are only desiring and you are engaging in something with your determination, but the results are coming from nature. So we cannot take ownership of the good results, and we cannot in one sense we are not the cause of some bad results also, in the sense of what we are getting, but we are the cause of whatever results we are getting because of our desires, like that. So we don't have any power to change the law. So that's another thing that shows that the soul is subordinate to the super soul. And then Krishna gives this nice example of, you know according to your desires you will get a particular type of body, right? So within that particular body, like suppose you're in a dog's body, you cannot speak like a human being. There are some limitations based on the laws. You got a body. Now within that body you can do whatever you want, but you cannot change the things you're in. And then Krishna is explaining again. He's just like this thing is being clarified in this section in text 22. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. because we think we are the master of the body, and we think we are the body, and we think we are this the field of activity also. So we get very lost in all the effects of material nature. And and then you keep meeting good and evil. That means you keep getting different types of bodies. You go from one cycle of the body to another cycle of the body based on your activities. So your responsibilities, your activities, what you get is going to is by design. Okay. And then text 23, Krishna is telling, again he's telling how the super soul is there. And it's there in the same body as the soul, but that super soul is not getting entangled in the activities of the body. So both the soul and the super soul are there in the same body, but the soul gets uh, soul identifies with the body. The soul gets attracted to the body. The soul gets bewildered by the body. The soul starts thinking it is the body and the field of activity, but the super soul does not. Right. So there again, there is he is para. He is transcendental to all this matter and material modes of nature. But now you see the difference. Krishna does not get entangled. He is beyond the modes of material nature, but we get entangled when we are in this body. So I think we discussed till that, and then we discussed text 24 quickly. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interactions of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. So once you understand you're separate from all of these things and the transformations, then you're not going to get entangled in all of this. Then you will stick to the process of knowledge and know more about Krishna, more about your position as a soul, and you will do activities in that realm. You will not do activities in the material realm like that. So this verse is a benediction. That's what our teacher told us, that if you try to understand what Krishna is trying to say, then you will also be, you will not take birth again. You will go back to Krishna. So that's a benediction for you. So now in our daily activities, we have to think how much we are able to follow this thing, right? So now text 25 is um, just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. I'm just checking with the YouTube people if they are able to hear. Okay. So text 25 is Krishna is explaining the process to know the super soul, and he's talking about how um, he's talking about some perceive the super soul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. So basically, some perceive the super soul through meditation, that is dhyana yoga, others through the cultivation of knowledge, that is jnana yoga, and still others through working without fruitive desires, that is nishkam karma yoga. So basically Krishna is explaining these different um, types of people and how through their particular ways they try to understand the super soul. And then Prabhupada is giving that explanation in the purport. So we'll just read the purport, or maybe we'll do a synopsis of the purport. Yeah, so the Lord explains that there are two classes of conditioned souls: some who are faithful in spiritual life, right? That is, they are introspective devotees, they are philosophers and workers who have renounced all the fruitive results. But the others can be like atheists, agnostics, and they try to establish all this, that, all the Mayavadi philosophy and everything also. And then, but Prabhupada writes down, in other words, only the devotees of the Supreme Lord are best situated in spiritual understanding, because they understand that beyond this material nature are the spiritual world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is expanded as the Paramatma, the super soul in everyone, the all pervading Godhead. So basically, the devotees are the best because they know that beyond the material nature and spiritual world there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, right, who expands himself as Paramatma, expands himself, like who comes as also one of his the thing is Brahma Jyoti also, right? And then Prabhupada is explaining about Sankhya philosophers. So the Sankhya philosophers are the ones who keep analyzing the material world and how the material world works and how things work, and the 24 elements. You all wrote the test, right? So they're counting all the 24 elements. Some things are a little different, but still they are also good because they understand that the soul is separate from the material nature, and they are also able to understand that above the soul is the supreme personality of Godhead. So these Sankhya philosophers are mostly in the Jnana stage. They just keep analyzing. The Bhakti element is little bit less, but they still understand that this material nature is a creation of the Lord, and how we are different from this material creation, and how the Lord is above, superior to us and the material creation, like that. And Prabhupada says they gradually come to the standard of devotional service in Krishna. And then he explains about those who work without fruitive results are also perfect in their attitude. They are given a chance to advance to the platform of devotional service in Krishna consciousness. Here it is stated that there are some people who are pure in consciousness, and then they, so like this Kardama Muni, this Dhyana Yoga was basically, the example is Kardama Muni because the Devahuti's husband in the Bhagavatam. So he, by meditating in the forest, he came to the realization of Krishna. Then this Jnana Yoga or the Sankhya Yoga, we already discussed. And then there are those who are working without fruitive desire. So all of these are good, but the devotees are the best. Okay. Then what is the hope for a person who cannot meditate or cannot pursue this Jnana Yoga, or who cannot do anything, any of these things, because these require some kind of commitment, determination, intellectualism, all those kind of things. So then Krishna is giving a path for us, right? He's telling in the text 26. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about Him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. So, we are all in this position, because one thing is, Prabhupada is explaining, there is no education in spiritual matters in modern society. It's applicable to all of us. And then some of the people may appear to be atheistic or agnostic or philosophical, but actually there is no knowledge of philosophy. Some people say, "Oh, I'm an atheist," but they have no knowledge of anything. They're not basing their argument on any kind of knowledge. As for the common soul man, if he is a good soul, then there is a chance for advancement by hearing. This hearing process is very important. Lord Chaitanya, who preached Krishna consciousness in the model world, gives stress to hearing, because if the common man simply hears from authoritative sources, he can progress, especially according to Lord Chaitanya. If he hears the transcendental vibration Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It is stated therefore that all men should take advantage of hearing from realized souls and gradually become able to understand everything. The worship of the Supreme Lord will then undoubtedly take place. Lord Chaitanya has said that in this age no one needs to change his position, but one should give up the endeavor to understand the absolute truth by speculative reasoning. One should learn to become the servant of those who are in knowledge of the Supreme Lord. If one is fortunate enough to take shelter of a pure devotee, hear from him about self realization, and follow in his footsteps, one will be gradually elevated to the position of a pure devotee. In this verse, particularly, the process of hearing is strongly recommended, and this is very appropriate. Although the common man is often not as capable as so called philosophers, faithful hearing from an authoritative person will help one transcend this material existence and go back to Godhead, back to home. So, you all have links to audio.iskondesiretory.info, and you all have access to these lectures. You all must hear lectures every day. That hearing has to be a very, very important feature. Or you read Prabhupada's books, because that is also hearing. And you must chant Hare Krishna, increase your number of rounds, and carefully hear the Mahamantra when you are chanting. Be with the Mahamantra. That's something I need to work upon also. My mind is all over the place. But see, this hearing, see, now what is our hope? We cannot understand. This is all very difficult to understand. And um, there's this process of knowledge, and so many things are here. Then there is meditation or cultivation of knowledge and working without fruitive desires. We are not there. And we can't get there also. It's very difficult. We don't understand so many things. We are contaminated. We have four defects and everything, right? So therefore, just commit to hearing. Like you all are joining this call, we are meeting together, we are reading Srila Prabhupada's purports together. So that is also hearing. And we must have a daily habit of hearing. There are so many apps nowadays. There's an app for Srila Prabhupada where all the lectures are there. Then there is TuneIn Radio is an app. If you download that app and if you search for Srila Prabhupada's lectures, then you can continuously hear that. The lecture is always going on. It's like a radio. So y'all have to focus on these things. Otherwise, and I have to focus on these things. Otherwise, we will not, we will not be able to. If you don't put anything inside, then what platform are you going to act on? The only thing we are surrounded by is ignorance, and we are hearing only ignorance through TV and through all the mundane conversations and everything that. Then what will come out of us is also ignorance. The way we express our lives will also be in the mode of ignorance. But if we put inside of ourselves this transcendental Krishna consciousness, Krishna Katha, then what comes out of us will also be an expression of gratitude for that Krishna Katha, and we will act in the platform of devotional service. Otherwise, what you are going to act on the platform of ignorance. So something you all have to do, and I have to do. We all have to do this thing. All right. Now, any questions before we go to the next section? Um, so please let me know. And the next section is about, basically it's just a summary of what Krishna has already spoken till text 26. He has spoken some things, and text 27 to 35 is a summary of what he has already spoken. So we'll try to go a little quickly in these particular verses because it's just a summary. We'll see if we can finish today. So basically, a realized person who has understood this thing, the difference between, what is basically understanding what is Prakriti, what is Purusha, what is Kshetra, what is Kshetragna, what is Jnana and Gyayam, then what is the vision of that kind of a person? That is what Gaurang Priya Prabhu is telling in his summary. The summary we got here says that it's a summary of what he's already spoken. So I guess both are true, and we'll just read like that. So text 27 is basically separate. The Kshetra and Kshetragna are separate. He's again establishing that. So, O chief of the Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. See, very beautifully explained. Whatever you see as moving or non-moving is a combination of the Kshetra and the Kshetragna, right? The Kshetra, the field of activity, will have no movement or nothing will happen if the Kshetragna is not there. So basically, it's only by the presence of the spirit soul or the spiritual energy that transformations happen in material nature. Without that, it is not possible. So again, he is telling about the difference between the Kshetra and the Kshetragna. Like Prabhupada says, there are many manifestations like trees, mountains, and hills which are not moving, and there are many existences which are moving. And all of them are but combinations of material nature and the spiritual superior nature, the living entity. Without the touch of the superior nature, the living entity, nothing can grow. The relationship between matter and nature is eternally going on, and this combination is effected by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, He is the controller of both the superior and inferior natures. The material nature is created by Him, and the superior nature is placed in this material nature, and thus all these activities and manifestations take place. So, basically, Kshetra, Kshetragna, whatever transformations you see in material nature are possible by the presence of Kshetragna, the superior energy, and basically the superior energy also has been placed by the Lord. Okay, then because of our own desire. Text 28. One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees, right? So knowledge means what? Knowledge means to know that super soul is there with the individual soul, and both are eternal. So even if the body is destroyed, the super soul and the soul are not destroyed. That is knowledge. So he is reverting. Basically, this is second chapter, right? There's 20 verses on the soul and the qualities of the soul and how the soul is eternal and how the body is different from the soul and different between spirit and matter. So basically that is there. So Prabhupada explains after the destruction of the body in the middle of the purport, a little bit before that, those who do not have such association are ignorant. They simply see the body and they think that when the body is destroyed, everything is finished. But actually it is not so. After the destruction of the body, both the soul and the supersoul exist and they go on internally in many various moving and non-moving forms. The Sanskrit word Parameshwara is sometimes translated as the individual soul because the soul is the master of the body and after the destruction of the body he transfers to another form. In that way he is master. But there are others who interpret this Parameshwara to be the supersoul. In either case, both the supersoul and the individual soul continue. They are not destroyed. One who can see in this way can actually see what is happening. Now, you may say, yes, when I go for a funeral, I'm able to understand that. No, when you are, when it says that one who is able to see this is actually seeing, means that in every day, every aspect of your life, you know that you are separate from this field of activity and you are spirit, you are part and parcel of Krishna. So you act from the platform of how can I serve the Supreme Lord? That is the platform from which you are acting. How can I act as a servant? And not by identifying with this material nature. Then text 29. One who sees the supersoul equally present everywhere in every living being does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches the transcendental aspiration. So basically, your mind will not be controlled by the senses and the sense objects because you know that all those senses and sense objects are also temporary. So you will use your spiritual intelligence and you will not allow yourself to be degraded by your mind and the whims and fancies of the mind. Rather, with spiritual intelligence, with this knowledge that Purusha, Prakriti, Kshetra, Kshetragna, and the process of knowledge, you will keep your intelligence strong so that it can keep the mind in check, right? So then whatever relationships you have with other people will also not be based on the body and you will not get disturbed by, oh, he said this, she said this, because you know all that is temporary and that has no meaning in your eternal journey, except for, yes, whatever feedback you get that you need to improve upon or whatever you learn, that's a good thing, but you won't be emotionally affected by those things because you know you are separate and you will learn how to respect your critics also, learn how to respect all the people whom you think are troubling you also, because you know it's your karma coming back, and you will be respectful because you know they are part and parcel of Krishna also. Then Prabhupada is writing in the middle of the purport, but okay, we'll read the whole purport. The living entity, by accepting his material existence, has become situated differently than in his spiritual existence. But if one understands that the Supreme is situated in his Paramatma manifestation everywhere, that is, if one can see the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every living being, he does not degrade himself by a destructive mentality and he therefore gradually advances to the spiritual world. The mind is generally addicted to sense gratifying processes, but when the mind turns to the super soul, one becomes advanced in spiritual knowledge. I'm just going back to some notes I have written here. Understand your and the opposite person's psychology and then see your consciousness will impact others' consciousness. Is my behavior such? Yeah, so basically, if you are acting from the platform of the spiritual realm, like from this, I am serving part and parcel of Krishna, automatically you will be operating out of a higher consciousness. And in every interaction, even if you're not preaching Krishna consciousness, but because you are acting from a higher consciousness, by the mercy of the Lord and the Acharyas, then you will have a positive effect in your association with people. They will automatically be uplifted to higher qualities of, and they will be automatically attracted to Krishna consciousness. So you will not be acting on the mental platform, right? So it's constant practice. Then text 30. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body which is created of material nature and sees that the self does nothing actually sees. So again, this is a summary of what we read in text 24, that whatever you are able to do is basically being facilitated by the material nature. So you are not the doer in that sense, but you're still responsible for the actions because You are the desirer. You are the person who is determined to do something, or you're the one who's wanting to do something. But the ability is coming from Krishna. So, in again, this negative and positive, we have to understand very clearly. I think I'm not being very clear in how I'm explaining this to you. Uh, so, let me just refer to Gaurang Prabhu. How does he explain this concept? Yeah, so text 30 is that you know that the activities are performed by the body, and then and basically the results are also coming from material nature. So you are responsible for your desires and your this thing. So you're responsible for the reaction you're going to get, but you are different from all these bodily activities. So all these roles that are going on, right, that like neither he nor others are acting. Basically all of us are just coming here and performing some roles, but actually our eternal life is somewhere else. So don't get too much entangled in these roles. That's the essence of this verse. Okay, so you're responsible for your desires. Just remember that. And it's very important to desire properly, because when you start chanting Hare Krishna, the Hare Krishna mantra gives benedictions and it fulfills your desires. So whatever you're desiring will be fulfilled. Now, if you have material desires, then those material desires may be fulfilled, and then you will be stuck in this material world. So it is better to have spiritual desires for yourself and for your family members. So basically, text 30, the essence is self is outside all of all material activities. It is different. In text 31, when a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. So basically, it's 14. Just 1 minute. I think this is first verse. Yeah, 1426. When we read the 14th chapter, you will understand how. So basically, here when we are seeing that the different identities are due to material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. So basically, you understand that the different bodies are only because of their different desires, but actually, in essence, they are all spirit souls, part and parcel of Krishna. Then you are able to come to the Brahman conception. That is basically in the Brahman conception, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Shochati Na Kankshati. There is no anxiety, or there is no lamentation. So then Prabhupada writes in the last part of the paragraph, when one can see this, he attains spiritual vision, thus being freed from differentiations like man, animal, big, low, etc. One becomes purified in his consciousness and able to develop Krishna consciousness in his spiritual identity. So you are not disturbed, this is big, this is high, this is low. And then you're not disturbed by, okay, I also have to become big, I have to become high, I have to become low. So your place of satisfaction is not the material realm. Your place of satisfaction becomes, how can I serve Krishna properly? And then Prabhupada is telling how he then sees things will be explained in the next verse. Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. So basically, the soul, like 30 also, like 30, where we are talking about, he sees that the self does nothing. Then, here, how different identities are different bodies. And then this text 32, that the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. So basically it is understanding that Kshetra is different from Kshetragna is different from Kshetra. You are different, right? And you know you will not be destroyed. You will know nobody can affect you in that sense. Nobody can destroy you. You know that even if you lose all your wealth and everything, you still you are spirit soul, and that is what is important. That identity no one can take away from you. So you're not disturbed. So then the less you, the more you understand that Kshetragna is different from Kshetra, the less you focus on Kshetra, that's the field of activity. You focus more on developing your spiritual consciousness in every situation. So while you are acting in Kshetra and doing your duties, but you are acting from the spiritual platform. Because you know that all these material qualities is not where you want to act from, because you are different from that. Then text 33, the sky due to its subtle nature does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. So, when you have this kind of vision that is being described of a person who understands the difference between Kshetra, Kshetragna, understands Prakriti, understands Purusha, and understands the process of knowledge, then that person will not get entangled in the body. Just like the sky does not mix with anything because it's subtle, right? You cannot mix something in the sky. So the sky is there everywhere. You cannot mix, okay, let me mix something. Let me mix some water in the sky or let me mix this in the sky. No, it's not like that. You can't mix anything because the quality is different. So similarly, when you have this knowledge or a person who has this knowledge, the Jnana Chakshu, who can act from this kind of knowledge, uh, does not get entangled in the body's activity. So this is basically setting you up. It's such a wonderful chapter. Like first I used to feel scared of the 13th chapter because I couldn't understand much. But I'm very grateful to get a chance, like because of all of you, I'm getting a chance to read this 13th chapter with all of you. And I'm actually seeing this as a wonderful benediction for all of us that hey, you just know how to see things properly. Then you will not be entangled and you can focus on what is essential. Right? It's giving me that push. So I'm very grateful for that. And if you all have any questions, please feel free to put it on the YouTube or those on the conference call can ask in the middle. So text 34. O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does a living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. Okay, before that, in text 33, I want to give you an example, just to make it clear. So there was this king Bharata, Maharaj, after whom the Bharatvarsh has been named, our country has been named. And he was first so he when his sons were grown up, he gave the kingdom to them and then he went to the forest to focus on his Krishna consciousness. But there he saw a deer, and pregnant deer who happened to give birth to a baby out of fear. And then I think either the mother deer was killed or she had to abandon the baby because the tiger was after her. I don't know what happened. But so Bharat Maharaj took care of that small baby and that baby deer. And while taking care of the baby deer, out of compassion, he got very attached to the deer. So when he was living in the forest, there was also a nearby, ashram where he could go and be with other renounced people. But he stopped going over there. He got more and more attracted to the baby, more and more entangled with taking care of the baby. And what happened is that when he was leaving his body, he started thinking of the baby more and more. And so then he was not thinking of Krishna. So because he was thinking of the deer so much and worrying so much about what will happen to the deer, etc., that he got the body of a deer, right? Based on the desires, he got the body of the deer. But luckily, by Krishna's mercy, because he was in the body of the deer, he had that memory that he should not be that why he is in that body. So he was born in the same location. So what he used to do is he used to go and sit down in the ashram, even in the deer's body, and hear Krishna Katha. And then once, so he was not entangled in the deer body because he knew he made a mistake in the previous life. So when he was in the deer's body, he was acting from this platform of the 13th chapter. He knew he was different from this deer body. So he did not want to get attached to that. So he was only acting out of the spiritual platform. And then in the next birth after that, he comes as Jada Bharat. So he is born in the family of a Brahman family and in a good family, like Krishna promises, right? To complete your journey, you will be given proper um, birth, either in an aristocratic family or in a family of transcendentalists. He promises that in the 6th chapter. So Maharaj Bharat is born as Jada Bharat in that family, but he acts like a madman, even if he is not. He acts like a complete madman, does not interact, does not talk, does not follow any social things like that. He does not become a social disturbance, but he does not follow any social things like that because he does not want to engage with anybody in the world. And he's just constantly cultivating his Krishna consciousness. Now, for us, it seems like an attractive proposition. Wow, anyway, the world is a big trouble. So let us not engage with the world and we can also act like madmen. No, I think at our level it is important to engage with the world because when we engage with the world and we have all of those interactions with the people, I'm not talking about engaging with my materialists or other things, but engaging with your family, engaging in your relationships, engaging with the devotees, Vaishnavas is very, very important, that association, because through the association, a lot of our qualities come out and a lot of qualities develop. So, one thing is we get qualities from the devotees, and the second thing is during interaction with devotees, we see that in certain situations there are conflict, or when you're working together, etc. Then you get to learn a lot about yourself, and you because you want to serve nicely, then you have the impetus to change. If you isolate yourself, then that growth will not happen for us. But this Jada Bharat was a very elevated platform. So then he acts like a madman. He does not engage with anybody, and is everyone is very disturbed by him. And then one fine day, he just, I think, he they try to get him to employ him or do some of those things, but he doesn't do anything properly, because he's constantly thinking and meditating on the Lord inside, right? And he does not want to be disturbed by other people. People throw things on him and so many things happen, but does not. And then one time he's in the forest, and he's just 1 minute. Yeah, so one time he's in the forest, and he's walking around, and then one of the kings, Maharaj Raghuguna, something happens and he's on the palanquin. So something happens to his palanquin, or he's hunting, or he has to go, and then they're not able to find the fourth person to hold the palanquin. So then the palanquin bearers, they see Jada Bharat, and they tell him to come and uh, hold the palanquin. So while he's on the palanquin, then he's not walking in. They have to walk in synchronization, but he does not walk in synchronization. So then they start insulting him. Or the king starts getting upset. Then the palanquin bearers say that, hey, this man is not walking properly. Then Maharaj Raghugana starts getting angry. I am a king, and how dare you treat me like this, and all of that. So then Jada starts explaining to him this knowledge, that hey, you're different from the body. What king are you talking about? You don't know what you were in your previous birth. You don't know what you will be in the next birth. Because you're so entangled in your spirit, in your material body, you're not able to understand anything, and you're getting angry at people. So then Jada starts preaching, and he reveals his great exalted position. So the reason I brought this story up is that when we're reading text 30, we are seeing here that he is not entangled, like text 31, or rather, where were we? Yeah, text 33, sorry. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman not mixed with the body, though situated in that body. So Jada Bharat, in the body of Jada Bharat, or in the body of the deer, he had that vision. So he was not getting entangled. Now we also have to have that vision and not get entangled. Please read Bhagavatam. There are many nice stories like that. Alright. So then, is it okay if we go like a little bit more? A little bit more. Like, we just have to take 2 verses to cover. So text 34 is, O son of Bharat, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does a living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. So this body, like when Gajendra Moksha, his leg is in the mouth of the crocodile, and he's trapped over there, right? So in his prayers, he's telling, anyway, this body is basically a sign that you're in the mode of ignorance, because this body is matter is mode of ignorance, and you're covered by mode of ignorance. One thing is your consciousness is already covered, plus you have this body, and Gajendra says, I have this huge elephant body, so I'm covered with so much ignorance, like that, right? So now, if the soul identifies with the body, then there is no hope. The mode of ignorance is going to continue birth after birth. But if the soul is able to understand these things and act from this platform, then because the soul is situated in spiritual knowledge and is being guided by Krishna on, like Krishna says in the 10th chapter that, I will remove all the ignorance with this lamp of knowledge, right? And he will guide us and how to go to him. Because the soul is taking that step, Krishna is guiding him. The soul is illuminated because it's connected to Krishna like that. And the light of Krishna is there. Then the entire body also becomes spiritualized like that. So the last part, like last 6-7 lines, Prabhupada says, the consciousness of the living entity, although qualitatively one with supreme consciousness, is not supreme. Because the consciousness... Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't mean to read that. Yeah, in the beginning, there are various theories regarding consciousness. Here in Bhagavad Gita, the example of the sun and the sunshine is given. As the sun is situated in one place but is illuminating the whole universe, so a small particle of spirit soul, although situated in the heart of this body, is illuminating the whole body by consciousness. Thus, consciousness is the proof of the presence of the soul, as sunshine or light is the proof of the presence of the sun. When the soul is present in the body, there is consciousness all over the body. And as soon as the soul has passed from the body, there is no more consciousness. This can be easily understood by any intelligent man. So, even if the soul is present and the body is moving and all, that does not mean that the person is not in the mode of ignorance. If you are, like Prabhupada is explaining how consciousness is a symptom of the soul, but if the soul is not conscious of Krishna, then the whole system of the Kshetra and Kshetragna, everything is in the mode of ignorance. So we have to be constantly conscious of Krishna, like that. And then text 35. And please let me know your questions. The YouTube usually becomes non-interactive and I don't like it so much, but can't help it. So Krishna's now text 35 is basically again chapter summary. There's so much summary happening. This last one is full summary. Those who see with the eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal. Again, if you know the difference between the Kshetra, the Kshetragna, and the process of liberation between basically Jnana, not Jnana, process of knowledge that is there in 8 to 12, how to come out of this material nature, then you are able to come to the goal. Because it's not enough to know your soul is separate from the body, right? The Sankhya people also are like that. But if they know that the spirit is different from matter, but they don't know how to go to Krishna, right? So all these three things are very important. And Prabhupada is explaining in the middle of the purport, a faithful person should at first have some good association to hear of God, and thus gradually become enlightened. If one accepts a spiritual master, one can learn to distinguish between matter and spirit, and that becomes the stepping stone for further spiritual realization. A spiritual master, by various instructions, teaches his students to get free from the material concept of life. For instance, in Bhagavad Gita, we find Krishna instructing Arjuna to free from materialistic considerations. But see, Arjuna heard, but he also followed. So we have heard a lot of lectures. How much are we following? Right? And then one who can see, like little in the second paragraph towards the bottom, middle, one who can see the constitution of the whole material manifestation as this combination of the soul and material elements, and can also see the situation of the Supreme Soul, becomes eligible for transfer to the spiritual world. These things are meant for contemplation and for realization, and one should have a complete understanding of this chapter with the help of the spiritual master. So, what are you going to do about this now? Now whatever is there in the 13th chapter, you have read in the first 12 chapters also. Krishna is categorizing it now, giving it to you. Now, what are you going to do about it? What is your commitment? My commitment is I want to chant and hear properly. I want to chant nicely. I'm not doing that properly. I want to chant nicely and I want to serve the devotees like that, because that's where my humility will develop. And I want to please the devotees because they're such wonderful souls. Now, what is your commitment? What is each person's commitment here? So that you can follow these things, so that you can act from the platform of you are different from this um, body. So next time you lose money or somebody does not give you proper respect, what is your reaction going to be? That is the key. How are you going to react? Are you going to get affected? Identifying with all the money and identifying with the respect or the disrespect? Or are you going to say, okay, now your money is gone, Krishna will help me in some other way and let me figure out another way. I'm not going to get disturbed by this thing because this is not me. So, what is your reaction going to be? Anyone like to share? Yes.
It's very difficult to lose both. If you lose money, you think Krishan ji will help you. But we have to have patience also at the same time. So if we lose money, we just can't say, "Oh, I lost money and now Krishnji will help us right away." There is a time for everything, but to be patient in that time is the hardest. That he is still there, and he will listen one day, and he will listen either through our surrendering, or by chanting, or by not having so much attachment to the things we have lost, which we actually deserved, or which were destined for us. Like that, I feel.
Yeah, so that's a good, thank you for sharing. So it's a good thing you shared. So if we are attached to those things, that means we are still identifying with the body and the things that are related to the body. So we will be disturbed. But if we are not, we are acting from the platform of the spirit soul, then we know that it will create some disturbance if you've lost all your money because you have to survive and you have to keep body and soul together. But you will still understand that is not all in all. Like when we have Hari Vilas Prabhu here, our temple president, he used to have a house in Redmond. About 11 years ago, because of something that happened in the house, his entire house got burned down. He had a nice house. And I was not here, I had still not come to Seattle. But what the devotees described to me, not more than 11 years ago, 12 years ago, that Prabhu was totally unaffected. He just accepted it as Krishna's mercy, and whatever he lost, he was okay. And then he figured out a different way to live in his factory, and he made a room over there, and he was totally unaffected. His activities just went on the same way as before. He was working with the same enthusiasm in his factory, and he was preaching Krishna consciousness also with the same enthusiasm. And then whatever money that came as a part of the home insurance, uh, he put it in the temple hundi. So we have these examples of people acting from the Brahmabhuta platform, and they look happy, because they're not getting affected by the changes that are happening in the material nature. Now, can we become like Harivilas Prabhu? No, there is a huge gap for us, but there is a process by which that gap can be bridged by sincerely chanting, sincerely hearing, and sincerely following the footsteps of great devotees. Right? He is at a very elevated platform, but what I'm saying is that we can see somebody in action acting like this in front of us. So that is our hope that this process works. And you really don't need so many things. And another thing Harivilas Prabhu says is that you should know the minimum you need to be happy in your life. And once you know your minimum, the key to being always happy is to keep reducing your minimum. So when you understand your spirit soul different from matter, then the amount of needs you have from matter also reduces. The only need of the soul is to serve Krishna. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? What? So Monica Mataji is saying something about the second option. Any discussion? All right, then we will end this discussion. And I know there are two pending items for me to send you the question answers from questions from chapter 11 onwards, and to also send you the test hints for test prep questions for chapter 12. And I'm going to do that right now, just after this call, so I don't forget. So thank you all. Congratulations for completing the 13th chapter today. And the 14th chapter, 15th chapter will go really fast. 16th also, 17th also. 18th is like the long, very long one. So, but we're gonna try to complete this before you go on vacation in the summer. And uh, we're very happy to be completing some of these things with you and reading Srimad Bhagavad Gita with you. So Monica Mataji is telling that she likes the second option. She says that even if she loses money or she loses anything, she know Krishna is there for her. So this protection of Krishna is what she is depending upon, which is very, very wonderful, as Malvika Mataji also talked about surrender and chanting the holy names. So you all are wonderful devotees, and I'm very grateful for your association. Thank you for sharing such nice points. They're very enlivening for me in my Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.